Hello, my lovelies. Today we're going to be talking about Thor, Love and Thunder. It took me about 2 weeks to really articulate all my thoughts about this movie because when I initially first finished watching it in the theaters, I left kind of confused, but somewhat happy with what I saw. So we're going to talk about it without any further ado. Grab a snack, grab a drink, and let's jump into it. Roll the intro. Welcome back. Now, if you know how we do it on this channel, first I give the unspoiler review, and then later I will give the full-on spoilers. So this is going to be the unspoilerly portion. I will, of course, give you guys a warning when I'm getting ready to go into the spoilers, because I don't like doing both an unspoiler review and a spoiler review separate. I like to do them all together since I'm talking about the movie anyways. So we're going to just jump right on into it. Thor, Love and Thunder is a film that recently came out here in 2022, and it circles around Thor's journey after Endgame and what that means. There is a villain named Gorr, the God Butcher, and along the way we see Jane Foster appear as the mighty Thor. We, of course, have Korg is back. We see a little bit of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and we also see King Valkyrie again, which I was happy about. Now, there's not really a lot I can mention about this film without it being spoilers, so I'm just going to give you guys my initial thoughts about it. I thought this film was a little much of a lot of things. It had a lot of humor in it, which I know a lot of people love the Marvel movies for the humor, but there's a line between good humor, bad humor, and just using too much humor to make a film stick. And that's how I felt. Is this film had a lot of humor. Yes, some of the jokes were funny, but there was a lot of jokes that didn't make sense to me, and it just really bogged down like the serious tone of the film. There were things that I liked, and there was things that I did not like about this film. I felt like the humor really offset the seriousness of the film and what the film was going for. I liked Jane in this movie, although a couple things about her powers didn't really make sense. I liked seeing Valkyrie again. I liked seeing Sif. I was so glad to see Lady Sif again, let me tell you. The humor was funny in some places. There was some really cool shots in this film. There was a black and white scene I'm not going to go into because it does kind of spoiler things. But this black and white scene was cool. We get to see the place where all the gods reside, and that was really cool. The special effects could have been better. There's not really much to say that's not spoilers. But if you like good, funny movies and you enjoy Taika Waititi, I believe you will enjoy this film. I believe that this film had some issues, but it is worth a watch at least once. Will I probably rewatch it? I don't think so. So, what do I give this film without spoilers? I will probably give this film a solid 6.5 to a 7 on the scale, depending on your, preferences for a Marvel movie, but I liked the message that they were going for, and for the most part, they did achieve that message. Christian Bale acted his ass off in the scenes that he did have. I wish we would have had more of Gorr the God Butcher. That's really all I can say. If you want to watch this movie, I do recommend you watch this movie at least once. If you did enjoy Ragnarok, it's not as good as Ragnarok, but, you know, the typical Taika Waititi directing is there. So if you feel like it, go watch this movie. I enjoyed it the first time I watched it. I probably will not rewatch it. I might rewatch it maybe once more just to kind of watch it again and see how I feel. But that's all I got for the unspoilerly portion of this film. Now we're going to hop into the spoilers portion, and I wrote things down. That's what the reading glasses are for, because your girl reads a lot of books and it's kind of damaged my eyesight. So we're going to use the glasses for this one to read things off. So if you don't want spoilers, I recommend you hop off the video now. I'm going to give you a 5 seconds starting now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get it. Now, I hope that everyone that was not here for spoilers is gone, because we're going to hop right on into this because there's a lot to talk about. Now, I'm going to also tell you guys, if you're not familiar with how I do movie reviews, I go into the pros of a film and then I go into the cons, unless it's a movie I truly despise, and then I hop right on into a shitting on it fest. So, the pros of this movie: it was funny. I will not deny that this film was funny, and I see what they were going for with the humor, but when it comes to, I see the glare in my eyes and I'm like, eh. So this film was good. The film was funny. I can't deny that it wasn't funny, but there was a lot of jokes that didn't make sense. It seemed at times that maybe they were poking fun at Jane's cancer, and I did not enjoy that. It just felt like there was too many jokes in this movie for the seriousness that they were going for with this movie. And the screaming goats... Y'all, we didn't need the screaming goats bit. It was funny for, like, the first time when they bring the goats out after Thor is done saving this planet with the Guardians. They bring out these 2 gigantic goats and they scream. Now, that was funny the first time, but every time after that, we didn't need this. We didn't need the screaming goats, Taika. What were you thinking? We did not need the screaming goats, my dude. Ugh. Stormbreaker being jealous of Mjolnir, the whole bit was cute, I believed. I thought that was a really cute bit that they were going for, that, like, his old hammer is jealous of his new hammer. I thought that was cute in the way that they did it. And I feel like that was the only bit of humor that did work in this movie. I don't know why we had to have the whole bit of, like, going through the entire movie of Jane trying to figuring out what her whole superhero nickname was. I don't feel like we needed that. I did like how they did a whole montage that also explained why Mjolnir is attracted to Jane in the first place. And it also kind of clears up all the closure between, you know, Natalie Portman not being Jane through all the rest of the Thor movies after Thor 2, which is the Dark World. We didn't see her in Infinity War. We didn't see her in Endgame. We assumed that she had been dusted. We didn't see Jane and what happened with their relationship. All we get is like a throw-off joke in Ragnarok about how he and Jane didn't work out. So seeing the whole montage of their whole relationship and how, you know, things were good in the beginning and then it just kind of fizzled out when each of them were super busy with things. Jane had wrote a really big book about her experiences and the science behind the Bifrost and all of that. And I feel like we needed that closure. It was very well done. I feel like that was one of the more well done parts of this movie. I feel like that was a very good, solid way to kind of clear everything up between the two main leads, you know. That black and white fight scene in I think it was like the Shadow Realm, that was a really cool, well cinematic shot. And I think that was one of my favorite things of the entire movie, was this fight in the realm of, like, this black and white realm. And I feel like that was super cool because it also kind of, like, harkened back to, like, comics and stuff. Like, it gave you that comic feel. And it was super well done. I think Christian Bale really should have had more time to shine in this movie because I think he was the strongest actor in a line of brilliant actors that I love so much, like Natalie Portman. I've loved Natalie Portman since her introduction to me in the Star Wars franchise and the Phantom Menace. Yes, I grew up on the sequels, all you Star Wars fans. Please don't come at me. They hold a lot of nostalgia, and I do love the whole trilogy, the whole sequel trilogy for its own reasons. So don't come at me. Don't be those open-mouthed gatekeepers that are like, well, then you're not a real Star Wars fan. You liked the sequels? I understand they have problems, but at the same time, nostalgia, and that was my introduction to the franchise, okay? I know it wasn't the best, but hey, it was mine, and I will own that. Alright, so, I liked Natalie Portman. I feel like they should have done a lot more with her. And speaking of Jane, I really did not understand some of the premises of her gifts as the Mighty Thor, because we see in the beginning she is looking for ways to stop her cancer, and her last resort is going to magical means or going to Thor about it. And she's reading this book, and it says that the person that wields the hammer of Thor will have, live forever. They'll have perfect health. And that even if you're sick and you have, the power to wield the hammer, that you will have perfect health throughout your time. And the only way to lose that perfect health is to no longer be able to wield the hammer. And so Jane goes to New Asgard, and she looks at the hammer, and it comes to life for her, and she's able to wield the hammer. She is worthy. But later on, it's implied that the hammer is slowly killing Jane, when that doesn't make sense, because it's established, again, in the beginning of the movie, that whoever is worthy and to wield the hammer will have perfect health. But it seems like it's only applied when she's holding the hammer, and that when she's holding the hammer, it's actually draining her life and causing her cancer to accelerate. What the hell? Why include that bit in the beginning about establishing, the magic of why she's able to wield it and why she's back to perfect health for the majority of the film if it's actually killing her? Why not establish that and set those stakes right at the beginning? That made zero sense to me. That felt like a really huge continuity thing that I really just didn't get over. I kept asking myself in the theater and looking at my fiance, and I was like, didn't they say that, like, whoever has the hammer will be, like, have perfect health? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, so why is it now killing her? As she's dying on screen, I was like, why is it killing her to this point if... And he's like, I don't know. We both didn't know. Continuity thing, I couldn't stand. Now, this last bit I have written down because I had to, like, articulate this specific thought, and I had to write it down because I don't use a teleprompter when I'm filming YouTube videos, so I'm sorry you're going to see me looking down a lot. But this is the only way I'm going to be able to get this specific thought out. Now, I wrote, the movie did what it was going for in a way. Since the start, Thor has had a very hard journey, which he has. Losing everyone he loved, including his planet, his family, Jane, anyone that loved him, he's lost. And throughout his whole journey after Thor 1, where he's reckless, he's cocky, he doesn't really serve a purpose until Loki decides to go evil. And that's when he figures out that his purpose is, fighting for a greater cause and protecting people. But now we see him later Endgame, and he no longer has a real purpose. Without a purpose or a battle to fight, he's lost. He didn't know what he was without a purpose. He doesn't know who he is without a purpose. Like in Thor 1, we see him, he's reckless, he's cocky. Now, at the start of this film, after Endgame, he's lost everyone. He has trust issues with love because he's lost everybody. Through the film, he finds out who he is, he finds closure, he finds out, what he stands for apart from just fighting. He finds a whole new purpose, and I heard when we were leaving the theater, some guy thought that, Thor taking care of Gorr's daughter after he's dead, and that he kind of becomes like her father figure. I felt like this guy was like, oh, he became a dad. That was gross. I'm like, the man is a father in real life. The man has 2 boys, as far as I'm aware. I've seen, the meme where he's like holding his kid by his foot. Like, the man has kids in real life. I didn't feel like that was too far of a stretch for Thor to take care of Gorr's daughter and be like her father. Also, I don't know why her name is Love. Like, I know it's implied that that's what Gorr named her. But, like, didn't she have, like, a real name and not just Love? But yeah, we see him kind of go through this journey again, and I understand I don't like it when characters go through a journey again. But it's always been implied that without fighting or someone to fight for, Thor is lost, he's reckless, and that's how we see him in the beginning of this movie. We see him, recklessly fighting these useless battles with the Guardians just to feel his purpose of being needed. He doesn't really have, like, a real connection to anyone in the Guardians besides maybe Star-Lord, and even then, he's his cocky self, while Peter Quill is also being his usual cocky self. And by the end of the movie, we see him go through this journey of closure with Jane, with, losing people, and that he kind of puts that behind him. So it's not, again, 100% repeating the message of Thor 1, where he's cocky and reckless and he finds a purpose in fighting. We find him making closure with the fact that he doesn't need to fight to be wanted. He doesn't need to always be this brave, fearless god fighting these impossible battles to be needed, to be loved by people. He is loved for who he is, not only by the children of Asgard, by fighting for them, but he also finds a new purpose in taking care of Love, or Gorr's daughter. And I felt like that was a really solid thing. And while they didn't do it perfectly, I feel like they could have done it more. I feel like they could have, pressed that a little better. But I see what they were going for with this movie, and I do appreciate it. I just wish they would have put a little bit more effort into it. Now we're going to pop into the cons of this movie and the bad things about it. Now, the first off is that the humor, while abundant, it did bog down the movie. This humor, the jokes, when they're good, they're good. You don't really mind a movie when it has a lot of humor if the jokes are good. But a lot of the jokes in this movie were not good, and sometimes they were reutilizing jokes that really sold with Ragnarok, like the whole Matt Damon being the Loki in these Asgardian plays. They really hammed that up to 11, and I didn't really enjoy that. It was a cute little cameo, in the beginning where they're doing the play of Ragnarok now, where in the Ragnarok movie they were doing the Dark World. I felt like it was a good bit to continue, but after the play is over and Jenny McCarthy is Hela, like, why was she Hela? Why was Jenny McCarthy Hela? I don't understand it. I don't get it. So, yeah. The bit was a little too continued. Also, the screaming goats. I can't get over the fucking screaming goats, y'all. Why did we need the screaming goats? Why did we need the screaming goats, Taika? Why? Ugh, the screaming goats were so fucking annoying. The screaming goats were so fucking annoying. I didn't like that one bit. Because, again, this movie is serious. We have Jane having stage 4 cancer. We have Thor supposed to be finding himself. We have stolen children. We have a guy that is butchering the gods. We have even, all the gods are afraid of this guy, besides Thor, Valkyrie, and Jane. And the humor really did bog down that part of the movie. My next ones are, like, a lot of things were done for plot convenience, like, Jane's whole magic powers thing. And then we have, the movie could have been written better. The special effects could have been so much better. They had such a big budget for this film. I don't know why they didn't go full on with special effects, but you can really tell that the special effects were just off on this movie, and I did not like that. Now, in the case of Gorr the God Butcher, I liked Christian Bale in this movie. I think that anything Christian Bale is in, he does throw himself into it, and he showed that again with this movie. Some of his scenes were some of the best in this movie, to be honest. I feel like they could have done a lot more with him, and they actually did. Christian Bale has come out and said that, they cut quite a few of his scenes in this movie, and that completely threw the whole pace of the movie off, because the pace is so weird in this movie. The pace could have been better, and now I understand why. They did cut quite a bit out of Christian Bale's scenes as Gorr, and I think that in turn really, really cut the pace of the film. Just the marketing of this movie did not match what the final product of the film is, and I feel like that did get some people excited to see this movie, and then when they launched it, they were just left the theater going, that didn't fit the marketing at all. And I feel like I was a victim of that, because I thought this movie was going to be, just Thor going off with the Guardians and having a fun, rompy adventure of self-closure and finding out who Thor really is. And in a way, we got that, but the Guardians are only in this movie for the first 5 minutes. And that just really, I didn't like even how they, sent the Guardians off to separate from Thor. How Lady Sif is calling for help, and the only person that wants to go save Sif is Thor. So they're like, hey, there's a lot of people that need saving. and we're gonna go this way and you go get Sif. And then they don't show up. I thought they would have shown up towards the end to, you know, help with the final battle, and that would have kind of brought the Guardians back into it, but they don't show up again, and I was really sad because I was expecting this to be a fun space Viking odyssey of Thor gallivanting around the galaxy with the Guardians, and we didn't get that, so. And quite a lot of things are done for plot convenience. I know I mentioned that, but I want to elaborate a little bit. So, in terms of plot convenience, like right at the beginning, we have this term of the plot convenience being like, Gorr is, you know, grieving the death of his daughter who has passed away because she was starving and he's been praying to his God this whole time. And 5 minutes later after his daughter is dead, we see an oasis and there's the God that he was praying to, and there's this guy there laying dead with the sword that's able to kill. And his God elaborates on that, shows like his God is an asshole, and is like, oh yeah, by the way, if you want to kill me, there's the sword that can kill me. That sword can kill all the gods. Not exactly like that, but it felt very plot convenient. And there's just bits of plot convenience sprinkled throughout the movie. Like, when they're going, like, in the black and white scene where they're fighting Gorr in the realm of, like, the shadows or whatever, and Jane just conveniently finds Gorr's plans laid out on a piece of paper, and then she finds out that they need Stormbreaker to get into Eternity to make the wish to kill all the gods. She just doesn't, like, they use the Bifrost, and then Thor is trying to hold on to Stormbreaker, and he loses his grip, while Gorr is just a man. Like, a magical man, yes, but a man nonetheless. And Thor's a god, and somehow he loses his grip on Stormbreaker, which causes, you know, the big battle at the end. It's very plot convenient, and it was hard to ignore that at times. But that's my last con about this movie. What do I give it? I think I already did give my initial score, but I feel like this film deserves a 6.5 to a 7. If this is your kind of film, it's very much one of those kinds of films where it's going to be your tea or it's not going to be your tea. And I feel like this film deserves nothing more than a 7. Plain, simple, doesn't deserve any more than a 7. This film just didn't hit it for me. I was so excited to go watch this movie. I love the Thor franchise. I love Thor. He's always been one of my favorite comic book characters. Jane has always been one of my favorite comic book characters. And I was so excited to finally see the mighty Thor, and then she dies. And I was like, why did she die? We could have used her later. So that's what I'm giving this movie. Let me know your thoughts about Thor: Love and Thunder. Have you seen it? What are your thoughts about this movie? And if you disagree, that's fine. We can all have different opinions. That's how a fandom works. We can have creative discussions about this in the comments. You can change my mind later. You never know. So, and I don't also talk about movies. I also talk about books, movies, TV shows, anime, internet news, internet drama. If I find it interesting, that's when I talk about it. That's why the name's The Random Show. It's random for a reason. So, if you feel like it, also hit the likes, hit the subscribes. I am 10 people away from hitting 2,000 subscribers, and I plan on doing a Q&A special when I hit that milestone, where I will make a community post. I'll be like, hey, ask me some questions, 2,000 subscribers special. I'll take pictures of your questions, I'll put them up on the screen, and I will answer all your questions when I hit that goal. And I'm really excited to. And you can always change your mind later, so hey, I'm just leaving that at the end of the video. I love you all so much. I love you all so much, and I hope you have the best day. Bye.